The Canadians have been very important partners in providing development aid to South Africa for many years now. Over the last 6 years, they've given us some 86 million rands, particularly for building capacity in the South African state. And they've just given us an undertaking for another 10 million Canadian dollars over the next 5 years, which will enable the Technical Assistance Unit in the Treasury to support other government departments in building their capacity, in improving their efficiency, and in delivering projects that are crucial to government departments in South Africa.
Of course, now you've just come out of the opening plenary. Very interesting and powerful speeches by both our president and the president of the AU Commission, outlining a 50-year vision for Africa in terms of infrastructure, peace, and so on. How crucial is this?
No, it's very crucial. I think we as South Africans should understand that the world is changing very fast around us, that for the last 100 years, what we call the developed world has been growing and benefiting in a particular way. The last 20 years, we see that growth moving to the east, and now we're coming to Africa. And for the next 10 to 20 years, Africa is where humanity is going to benefit from. So what they were pointing out is that, for example, 60% of land that you can grow food on is on the African continent. So if you're looking 20, 30, 40 years ahead, the world is going to depend on Africa to produce food for itself. And so there's huge prospects for development, for growth, for benefiting the billion people on the African continent. And there's a tremendous amount of interest in business people, social entrepreneurs and others working with the continent in order to produce more inclusive growth, more jobs, more industries on the African continent, and integrate Africa, because that's the key challenge that we face.
Now, of course, we know that investors don't invest in dreams. They invest in concrete projects that are going to give them tangible profits. Do we have such projects, especially whether it's communications, infrastructure, and so on, that we are able to sell to potential investors in a forum like this?
But as President Zuma said, that's the big leap I think we've made in the last 5 years, that we're not talking about the theory any longer. There are real projects available, whether it's infrastructure within a country, between countries, that are at a fairly advanced stage of planning, firstly. Secondly, if you look at the financial sector, both South African banks and banks from elsewhere in the world are increasing their footprint at a very hectic rate. So South African banks alone operate probably over 35 to 40 countries on the African continent, and they provide an important network for trade and for economic activity to actually take place. Similarly, investment is taking place in mining, in infrastructure projects, in the retail sector, in the telecommunications sector, in the green economy. And so both from South Africa, as a recent report shows, but elsewhere in the world, Africa is going to increasingly invite and attract investments, and it's going to give great opportunities for returns. For people in some parts of the world, in the Northern Hemisphere, Africa is still this place that they don't know too well. What I've learned over the last few weeks in Washington, in London, and at this conference is that that picture is becoming clearer. People want to understand Africa. They want to understand what the opportunities are here. Of course, they want to make profits, and we want to make sure that we produce jobs and economic benefits for all of our population.